You'll never succeed without me, Olivia. You're not built for this world on your own. His voice echoed even as he walked away, the door slamming behind him like a judge's gavel delivering a sentence. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, frozen. My fingers were still clenched around the handle of the duffel bag I had packed that morning, in secret. I thought I would be the one walking out. I thought I was taking my power back. But instead, he beat me to it and stripped it from me all over again. He stood on the porch, smirking, arms crossed as if watching some pathetic comedy. "Go on," he said. "Show me how far you get without me cleaning up your messes." I didn't cry. Not yet. I just walked past him, my shoes clicking softly on the wooden planks. I didn't look at him. I couldn't, because if I did, I knew I might turn back. And I couldn't afford that. Not this time. We'd been together for 4 years. 4 years of compromise disguised as love. He liked to call me his queen in front of friends but would mock my dreams behind closed doors. He said he supported me and then deleted my resume off the laptop. He said he wanted what was best for me, as long as it didn't mean more than what he had. And I had believed him. For so long, I believed that maybe I was too soft, too emotional, too idealistic. I had put off applying to grad school. I had shelved my art. I had turned down interviews in other cities just to keep things peaceful. I had bent over backward in the name of love, and now I was being told I was nothing without him. The Uber driver must have sensed something was wrong. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror but said nothing. I appreciated that more than I could say. As we pulled away from that house, his house, I kept expecting the tears to come. But they didn't. There was just this heavy, hollow silence inside me, like a church after everyone's gone home. My phone buzzed. It was a text from him. "Good luck out there, superstar. Don't come crawling back." I stared at it, not moving. Then I blocked his number. I checked into a modest motel 2 towns over. One night. That's all I could afford without dipping into the tiny savings I had managed to squirrel away, quietly, secretly, over the past 6 months. I stared at the ceiling fan. I wasn't sure who I was anymore. Everything felt undone. And yet, something inside me whispered, "You're not broken. You're just starting over." The next morning, I sat in the corner booth of a tiny diner, the kind that smells like burnt coffee and buttered toast. I opened my old laptop, the one he didn't know I still had. The screen flickered to life. Blank, but waiting. Like a second chance. I stared at the blinking cursor and whispered to myself, "They think I can't do this. And then, let's prove them wrong." But let's go back. Let me tell you what led to that morning. Because that moment in the diner, that whisper to myself, didn't come out of nowhere. It came from years of being silenced, of being underestimated, of being told I was lucky to be chosen, instead of realizing I was the one with the light. My name is Olivia Taylor, and this is the story of how I rebuilt my life, not to prove them wrong, but to finally believe I was always right. Growing up, I always thought love meant sacrificing quietly. In my family, silence was mistaken for strength and obedience for love. My mother was the kind of woman who served dinner every night at exactly 6 p.m., pot roast, green beans, always a starch, and never once sat down to eat with us. She was always fixing, cleaning, adjusting, apologizing. Especially for my father. My father had opinions the way most people had air, and he expected them to be swallowed without resistance. He was never cruel, not the way people imagine abuse. He didn't hit. He didn't scream. He just dismissed everything I cared about, everything I dreamt of, everything I was. "You're too sensitive, Olivia," he'd say when I cried at sad movies. "Nobody makes a living from painting. Get your head out of the clouds." When I showed him my sketchbook, "Don't be dramatic. Your sister has it worse." When I told him, I felt invisible. And maybe that was the worst part, because he wasn't entirely wrong. My sister did have it worse. Rachel was the wild one, the loud one, the fighter. She slammed doors and wore eyeliner too dark for my mom's taste. But even when she was spiraling, she was seen. I, on the other hand, was the good girl. The one who got straight A's. The one who smiled politely at church. The one who never said what she really thought. But it was never enough. Not really. My parents celebrated Rachel's smallest wins, a certificate from a makeup course, a new boyfriend who wasn't awful, while mine were quietly folded into the background. When I got a scholarship to the local community college, my dad simply said, "That's good. Just don't waste it on art classes." So I didn't. I enrolled in business courses. I aced them, and I hated every second. When I met Jason, my ex, I was 22 and exhausted. He was 28, confident, charming, a little arrogant. He spoke in absolutes. "This is the best sushi in town. That movie's garbage. You're different from other girls." And I mistook that certainty for stability. He made me feel chosen, wanted, visible, and that felt like enough. At first. In the beginning, he was sweet. He brought me lunch at work. He remembered my favorite candle scent. He told me I was the most grounded woman he'd ever met. But slowly, the sweetness turned sour. Not all at once. Bit by bit. Like the night I got my first freelance illustration gig, a small project for a local children's author. "That's cute," he said. "But let's not pretend doodles are a career path, Liv." I laughed it off, because that's what I had been taught to do. Laugh it off. Be easy. Be agreeable. Be small. Looking back, I realize I shrank for everyone. I shrank for my parents, to not seem too needy. I shrank for my sister, to avoid stealing her spotlight. I shrank for Jason, so he wouldn't feel threatened by my ambition. And all that shrinking, it left me hollow. My turning point didn't come with a bang. It came with a birthday. My 27th birthday. Jason forgot. Again. No card. No flowers. Not even a text until 8 p.m. when I reminded him. He shrugged. "Oh, I figured we could just do something this weekend. You're not that into birthdays, right?" He knew I was. I always was. But I nodded anyway. I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And something in me broke, quietly. That night, while he snored next to me, I sat in the bathroom with the door closed and cried. Not because I wanted cake or balloons, but because I realized no one had celebrated me in years, not even me. After that, I started keeping a journal again. A little black notebook I'd tucked inside my sock drawer. In it, I wrote, "You are allowed to take up space, Olivia. You are allowed to be proud. You are allowed to want more than survival." I didn't know it yet, but that journal became my lifeline. A map back to myself. A few months later, Jason made his usual joke, something about how Olivia's fantasy world would collapse without his spreadsheets and reminders. And for the first time, I didn't laugh. I didn't smile. I just looked at him. And I saw it. Clear as day. He didn't love me. He loved the version of me who needed him, who depended on him, who was small enough for his ego to tower over. And I was done being that version. It happened on a Sunday. The kind of slow, quiet day where the world pretends to be kind. Jason was already annoyed. He hated Sundays. He said they were wasted time. I had made breakfast. Eggs, toast, the good coffee. He scrolled on his phone while I poured him a cup. "Hey," I said casually, "I was thinking of applying to that residency program I told you about, the one in Portland. It's just 3 months. He didn't even look up. "Residency? For what? Your coloring book hobby?" I paused. "It's an art residency. It's a big deal, actually." He snorted. "Babe, come on. You think you're gonna go play with paints and magically have a career?" I stayed quiet. He kept going. "Let me ask you something," he said, finally looking at me. "Who's going to pay rent while you're off finger painting in Oregon? You think the world owes you just because you're creative?" There was no anger in his voice, just cold certainty. He genuinely believed he was being rational. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. He didn't see me. Not the real me. Not the girl who stayed up until 3 a.m. illustrating children's stories. Not the woman who turned down job interviews to stay close. Not the person who had stitched every piece of her worth into the quiet corners of this relationship. To him, I was just a dependent, a placeholder, a convenience. I tried to reason with him. I told him the program offered a stipend, that I could freelance remotely, that it was only temporary. He waved his hand. You're not going. Not while we're building a life here. Building a life here. Funny how that meant me giving everything up. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to our bedroom and shut the door. Locked it. My hands shook as I opened my laptop. I pulled up the application form. The deadline was 3 days away. I read every question slowly. Each one felt like it was daring me to believe I still mattered. That night, I submitted it. I didn't tell him. It felt like cheating, not because I was doing something wrong, but because I was doing something for myself. And I had forgotten what that felt like. 3 days later, I got the email. I had been accepted. Full stipend. 3 months. Private studio. Gallery showing at the end. I sat on the edge of the tub, staring at my phone, feeling like someone else had been chosen, not me. But it was me. Me. Olivia Taylor. I walked out into the kitchen. He was watching sports, sipping a beer. I said, I got accepted into the residency. He didn't pause the TV. So, I'm going. I leave next month. Now he paused, turned, laughed. No, you're not. And then he stood, crossed the room. You think this is how relationships work? You just decide something, and I'm supposed to what? Sit here and wait for you to come back from your little art camp. I stood my ground. I said, it's not up to you. That's when it happened. He picked up the house key from the counter, tossed it toward me, and said, then pack your stuff. Go. See how far you make it without me. I stood there, silent. No screaming, no begging, just silence. And he hated that more than anything. You think you're strong now, huh? Just wait. The world's not going to coddle you like I did. That was the moment. The final rejection. Not just from him, but from the illusion I had lived in. The illusion that love meant being less. That strength was in staying. That quiet sacrifice would one day be rewarded. No. This was the reward. The leaving. The freedom. I packed that night. In silence. He didn't try to stop me. The next morning, I left no hugs, no goodbyes. Just the slam of the front door and the click of the lock behind me. I told no one, not even my family, because I already knew what they would say. Well, he paid the bills, didn't he? You're being impulsive again. You should have talked it through. Don't be dramatic. They had said those things before. When I quit a job that drained me. When I cut off a toxic friend. When I dared to want more. They always made me feel like wanting more was a betrayal. But this time, I didn't ask for their opinion. I just went. The rejection was clear. From Jason. From my parents' silence when I finally told them 2 days later. From my sister's text that said, guess you're the flake now. No one offered help. No one offered congratulations. They all made me feel like I had committed a crime. All I had done was choose myself. I didn't fight back. Not then. I just let it all fall away. The noise. The blame. The need for permission. Something inside me shifted that week. Not a fire. Not yet. But a spark. I didn't post about it. Didn't make an announcement. Didn't share a triumphant selfie with my suitcase and a hashtag. I just left. Portland welcomed me with clouds and the scent of pine. It rained the first 2 days. I didn't mind. It gave me permission to be still. The residency house was an old Victorian-style building turned into shared artist studios. My room was simple, white walls, a skylight, a wooden desk with chipped paint. But it was mine. For the first time in years, everything in the room belonged to me. My choices. My space. My silence. I didn't reach out to anyone. Not even my sister. I blocked Jason's number. Then I did something that shook me more than anything else. I deleted my family group chat. No warning. No note. Just delete. There were no scheduled events for the first week of the program, only a blank calendar and a quiet invitation to begin. And I did. I painted. At first, it was stiff. Forced. Like my hands didn't remember how to move without permission. But by day 4, I found my rhythm. Messy, bold brushstrokes. Unapologetic color. Figures that looked like women but didn't smile because I wasn't smiling either. Every evening, I walked to a small coffee shop 3 blocks down. They had a corner seat by the window. I ordered peppermint tea and read used books. One night, I saw a text come through from a number I didn't recognize. Just checking in. You okay? I didn't answer. I stared at the screen, then blocked the number. Because I knew who it was. Jason. Still pretending he cared. Still pretending I owed him a response. 2 days later, I got an email from my mother. Subject: we should talk. No greeting. Just one sentence. You've made your point, Olivia. Now come home, and let's act like adults. I laughed. Laughed like someone who had survived something ridiculous. And I replied, I am home. Then I archived the thread. Didn't delete it. Didn't need to. Because I no longer felt pulled by her guilt. I stopped checking Facebook. Deleted Instagram. I knew they'd be watching, waiting for me to fail, to run back. So I disappeared. Not to punish them, but to protect me. The studio became my chapel. I woke up early, lit candles, played classical music, and painted. For hours. No one asked what I was working on. No one gave me feedback. No one demanded I justify my art with productivity. It was strange at first, then liberating. 2 weeks in, I realized something. For the first time in my adult life, I was no one's caretaker, no one's emotional buffer, no one's disappointment. I was just Olivia. That realization didn't come with trumpets. It came while I was folding laundry and humming a song I didn't even know I knew. And I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was free. One night, I walked into the shared kitchen and overheard a conversation between 2 other residents. They were talking about their parents, how hard it had been to break away from old patterns. I joined them quietly, holding my tea. Didn't say much at first. But when I finally shared a bit of my story about the rejection, the silence, the quiet goodbye, one of them said, That's not weakness. That's survival. That word stayed with me. Survival. Because that's exactly what I had been doing all those years. Smiling through guilt. Giving without limits. Shrinking without question. All in the name of love. But love shouldn't erase you. It should reveal you. I began journaling every night. Sometimes just one sentence. I made it another day. Other nights, paragraphs poured out. I wrote letters I'd never send. To my father. To my sister. Even one to Jason, which I promptly burned in the fireplace. Not in anger. In closure. I also stopped sending money. Every month, I used to help my parents with bills. My sister with her credit card. Even Jason, when he was between jobs, I covered the rent. I never asked for anything back. But this time, I closed all auto payments. Removed myself from shared accounts. Changed my bank passwords. And with every canceled draft, I felt lighter. They noticed. My mom left a voicemail. We really counted on that help, Olivia. You know your sister's struggling. I deleted it. No explanation. No guilt. At the studio's first group sharing night, we were asked to present one piece of work and say something about it. I brought a half-finished painting. It was a woman, shoulders squared, eyes closed, colors bleeding from her chest. I didn't explain much. Just said, this is what it looks like when silence becomes power. The room went quiet. Then someone whispered, damn. That was enough. By the end of the first month, I knew I would never go back. Not to that apartment. Not to that version of myself. Not to those expectations. I didn't announce it. I didn't scream it from rooftops. I just decided. And sometimes that's the most powerful thing a woman can do. It happened on a rainy Wednesday. I had just finished stretching a new canvas when an unexpected knock echoed through the hallway. Delivery for Olivia Adams? A voice called. I opened the door to find a short woman in a purple raincoat holding a long box. Flowers. I blinked. I didn't order anything. She smiled. Then someone else thinks you deserve them. I took the box, thanked her, and shut the door. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, white lilies, wrapped in silver paper. And a note. Thank you for sitting with her that night. She never forgot. I stood there, heart pounding.
Who was M?
What night? It took me a few hours and one long walk to remember. It was almost a year ago. I had stayed late at the hospital after visiting a friend. In the waiting room, I noticed an older woman sobbing softly alone. Her hands shook. No one sat near her. I'd walked over and said, "Do you want some company?" She had nodded. We didn't talk much. I just sat with her. Later, she said, "My granddaughter's in surgery. She might not make it." I had held her hand, gave her a granola bar for my purse, shared tissues. She never told me her name. I didn't ask. It had felt like the right thing to do. And then I forgot. Until now. The note must have been from the granddaughter. Somehow, she remembered. Somehow she found me. My eyes filled with tears. Because in that single moment of kindness, unseen by the world, unacknowledged by my family, I had made a difference.
To someone.
2 days later, I got an Instagram DM from a woman named Mara.
Hi.
I hope it's okay, I messaged. I sent the flowers. My grandma passed last month. She always talked about the girl who stayed with her at the hospital. I finally tracked you down through an artist's directory. Just wanted to say thank you. I replied after 10 minutes. You don't owe me thanks. I just didn't want her to be alone. Mara messaged again. Well, you did more than you know. I grew up hearing how strangers don't care. That night changed her mind. You gave her peace when she needed it most. And then, funny enough, I saw your name listed in an art showcase here in Portland. You're exhibiting at Lark Studio, right? I had applied a week ago, hadn't told anyone. I replied. Yes, I didn't know it was public yet. She sent a heart emoji. I'll be there. I want to support your work. That night, I sat in the dark of my studio and cried again. Not because I was hurt, because someone had seen me, not as a helper, not as an invisible crutch, but as a human, a soul, a giver whose light didn't go unnoticed. A week later, the Lark Studio sent me an acceptance letter. My work would be featured in the fall Emerging Voices exhibit. I read the email 3 times before I believed it. The same Olivia who had been told she wasn't enough, who had been used and dismissed, was now being invited to take up space. On opening night, the gallery buzzed with warm lights and soft music. I wore a simple black dress. Didn't bring anyone.
Didn't post online.
But Mara showed up. We hugged like old friends. She stood in front of my painting, the one I titled Not Yours Anymore, and said, "You know, they're all wrong about you." I tilted my head. Whoever told you that your worth comes from what you give? That you're only as valuable as your usefulness? I blinked, surprised. She smiled. I read a few of your older blog posts. You write like someone trying to convince the world she deserves to stay. I felt my throat tighten. She continued. But Olivia, you do deserve to stay. Even when you say no. Even when you walk away. You don't have to earn your place. After the event, I walked home with a bouquet of sunflowers, Mara's gift, and replayed her words over and over. Something shifted inside me that night. A belief I didn't even know I still carried began to loosen. The belief that I had to prove I mattered. The next day, a friend of Mara's, an art curator, reached out. She'd seen my work, wanted to schedule a meeting. I stared at her email for an hour. Because for years, I'd been dismissed, doubted, and drained. And now, I was being invited in. Not because I begged. Not because I bent myself backwards. But because someone, a stranger, saw me and said, "She's more." 1 week later, I received a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From Mara. She had left town but wanted to send something personal. Inside the envelope was a photo of her grandmother. Smiling. Wearing a scarf I remembered seeing that night in the hospital. And a small note card that read, "Kindness ripples. Even when you forget, the wave carries on. Thank you, Olivia." I held the photo to my chest and let the silence speak. This was what I had waited for all my life. Not applause. Not validation from people who only took, but truth. Recognition. not of what I gave, but of who I was. It started subtly, like all of their tactics did. An old group chat, dead for over a year, lit up.
Mom.
Hey Liv, heard about the art show. Looked nice. I stared at it. I hadn't told anyone in the family. Clearly, someone else had. Probably someone who saw it online, or maybe one of Dad's golf buddies' wives had gone to the gallery. That small-town grapevine never slept. Another message came in, this time from my younger sister, Beth. Saw Mara posted a pic from the exhibit. Didn't know you still painted. Thought you stopped after college. No apology. No warmth. Just a nudge.
A poke.
A test to see if I'd respond. I didn't. 2 days later, Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Then came her text. I think we've all grown a bit. Maybe it's time to let go of the past. Want to come for brunch next Sunday? Just a few of us. Nothing formal. Brunch. After everything. After the years of being silenced, used, overlooked, erased. Now that someone outside had seen me, now they wanted me back. But it wasn't about love. It was about control. The narrative had slipped. They didn't like that. Later that week, I got an email. From Aunt Denise. A forward. The original thread was from Mom. I don't know if Denise sent it accidentally or out of guilt, but the content made my stomach flip. She's being ridiculous. We just need to make things right before she tells anyone else. You know how people twist things. Let's not make it a big thing. A brunch is harmless. She'll probably show up if Beth asks nicely. And then, from Beth, if she wants to play victim, she can do it alone. We didn't do anything wrong.
But sure, I'll ask.
That was it. That was all I needed to see. I didn't reply. I didn't scream or expose or post about it. I simply blocked the numbers, deleted the chat, sat in my kitchen, and exhaled like I had been holding my breath for 30 years. Because, once again, it wasn't about reconnection. It was about damage control. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry they couldn't spin the story first. A few days later, I got a message from my cousin Talia, the only one who ever truly treated me like family.
Hey.
I don't know what's going on, but Mom said you might be mad about something. Just wanted to say, I saw the gallery online. Your work is stunning. Always knew you had it. Also, if you don't go to the brunch, I get it. I just hope you know you're not alone.
Some of us do see what they did.
I've seen it for years. My eyes welled up, because Talia had never said it before, but I always hoped she would. The following Sunday, I didn't go to brunch. I took a hike instead. Up the old Pine Ridge Trail behind the city. Just me, a thermos of coffee, and the silence of tall trees. At the top, I stood at the overlook, the same one I used to visit when I felt invisible in my own house, and let the breeze run through my hair. I thought about how they still couldn't apologize. Still couldn't say, "We hurt you." Still couldn't own it. Because they never believed I had the power to leave. But I had. And I did. And that scared them. Later that week, Mom called again. Voicemail. This time, her voice was a bit more panicked. Olivia, I don't know why you're being so cold. We're your family. No one's perfect. But I've always loved you, even if we've had misunderstandings. Please don't shut us out over silly things. It's not healthy. Silly things. Years of neglect. Being the one who gave, and gave while Beth was praised for existing. Being the unpaid therapist. The errand girl. The silent emotional landfill for their messes. And now it was silly. I didn't answer. I didn't respond. Because I didn't need to explain the truth to people who already knew and chose to ignore it. And then came the final twist of this section. Beth posted a story on Instagram. A soft selfie. Coffee in hand. Caption. Some people thrive on drama. Others choose peace. I'm the latter.
Subtle. Vague. But very much about me.
The comments were filled with mutual acquaintances offering sympathy and vague support. I almost laughed. She had weaponized peace, as if I was the toxic one for walking away. But this time I didn't spiral. Didn't message a friend asking if I was overreacting. Didn't write a long paragraph I'd never send. I just tapped mute on her profile, put my phone face down, and went back to painting. Because silence is not weakness. Sometimes it's protection. And they couldn't reach me anymore. Not because I ran, but because I closed the door. It happened on a random Tuesday. I was sitting in the corner of a quiet cafe, sketching in my notebook, when my phone buzzed with a new message request on Instagram. The profile picture was unfamiliar, a middle-aged woman with soft eyes and silver streaks in her hair. The name read Clara Mendez. The message began, "Hi Olivia. You probably don't remember me, but we met once, years ago, at the hospital in Portland. You were volunteering in the children's wing. I was there with my niece, Rosie. She was only 7 at the time, fighting leukemia." I froze. That was almost 9 years ago. You sat beside her when I had to step away for a call. I remember coming back and seeing her smiling, really smiling for the first time in weeks. You drew her a picture of a bunny riding a rocket ship. She kept that picture taped above her bed the entire time she was there. I just wanted you to know she's 16 now. Cancer-free. Thriving. And she still talks about the art girl who made her laugh. I came across your name through the gallery post Mara shared. When I saw it, I cried. You mattered more than you knew. Just thought it was time you heard it. I didn't know how long I sat there, just staring at the message, rereading every word. My hands trembled. In all the years I had questioned my worth, wondered if anything I did ever truly mattered, this message answered it all. It wasn't about applause or recognition. It was about that quiet, invisible impact. The kind no one claps for. The kind only a few remember, but those few never forget. That night, I sat on my bedroom floor, holding an old box of drawings I had kept from my volunteer years. I found the original sketch. The bunny. The rocket. Rosie had drawn a flower in the corner and written, "Thank you for giving me a day with no fear." I sobbed. Not out of sadness, but release. Because after everything, I was seen.
Not by my family.
Not by people who wanted to reset the past without accountability, but by someone who truly remembered me. A week later, I received another message. This time, a voice memo. It was Mara, the gallery assistant I'd met briefly when I submitted my portfolio. The one who, apparently, had shared my name with others. Her voice was gentle, a little shy, but full of warmth. "Hey Olivia, I hope this isn't weird, but I wanted to say thank you. Working with you reminded me why I wanted to be in this industry. So many people treat art like product, but you treat it like a lifeline. Also, my younger brother saw your painting, the one of the girl with her back turned, looking out the window. He started crying. Said it felt like someone finally painted what it feels like to be ignored. He's only 13. So, yeah, just know your work is doing things. Healing things. Even if no one from your past ever says it." My heart clenched. I remembered painting that piece. It was inspired by myself, by every dinner table I sat at in silence, every conversation I was excluded from, every moment I felt like the wallpaper of my own story. And now it was giving voice to someone else. I wanted to write back, to say thank you, to explain how much their words meant, but I couldn't find the words. So instead, I went back to my canvas and painted. I painted Rosie, older now, free, smiling with sunflowers behind her. I painted the bunny again, but this time, landing on the moon. And in the corner of the painting, I added small letters. You mattered. The gallery reached out again a few weeks later. They wanted to feature me in a spotlight exhibit titled, "The Ones Who Weren't Seen." I cried. Not because it was success, though it was, but because the title felt like a soft, poetic justice. A way of reclaiming all the years I had spent unseen, in kitchens, in school halls, in family gatherings where I was just the quiet one in the corner. Now I was the story, not the shadow. And the best part? The kindness I had given, without expectation, without reward, had come back. Maybe not in the way I had once wanted it. Not with my mother saying, "I'm sorry." Not with Beth finally acknowledging the difference in how we were treated. But in the right way. Through strangers who had carried my light with them for years. Through children who saw themselves in my silence. Through women who whispered, Me too, when they looked at my art. I hosted a small private viewing for the new collection. Talia came. She brought flowers, sunflowers, of course, and hugged me like I was a person she was proud to be related to. You know, she said, standing beside me in front of one piece titled Rewritten, they're still trying to figure out why you don't answer their calls. I smiled. They know why, I replied softly. They just don't want to say it out loud. That night, I walked home alone. No makeup. Paint on my sleeves. Hair pulled up in a messy bun. And yet, I had never felt more beautiful. Because I was full of something I had been starved of my entire life. Worth. The kind that wasn't given or taken. The kind that didn't depend on being liked, included, or invited. The kind that was mine. Finally. Fully. Quietly radiant. It started with a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I'd been spending the day deep cleaning my tiny studio apartment, sweeping up paint shavings, washing brushes, listening to old jazz records. I peeked through the peephole, and my breath caught in my throat.
Beth.
Standing there like she hadn't ghosted me for nearly 2 years. Hair perfectly curled. Designer bag hanging from her shoulder. Expression rehearsed. That same half-smile she used when she wanted something. I didn't open the door right away. I stood behind it, hand on the knob, listening to the silence on the other side. Then she knocked again, softer this time. Olivia, she called gently. Are you in there? I opened the door, but only slightly. Enough to see her, but not enough to invite her in. She tilted her head and gave a practiced laugh.
Wow. Look at you.
You look good. Her voice had the same syrupy tone she used to use in front of Mom, sweet, controlled, perfectly poised. I said nothing. Beth took a deep breath. So, I know it's been a minute. And, well, I just thought maybe we could talk. Maybe clear the air. You know, start over? Start over. Like the years of dismissals, gaslighting, and exclusion could be reset with a 5-minute doorstep apology. I didn't blink. I didn't smile. I didn't invite her in. She fidgeted, clearly expecting more. Mom's been asking about you, she added quickly. She said maybe we could all get dinner sometime. She misses you. Misses me. The girl she told not to come home for Christmas. The girl she only remembered when she needed help paying for something, or when she needed a babysitter, or when Beth's car broke down. Now they missed me. Of course. I finally spoke. Not with anger. Not with tears. Just clarity. Beth, I said softly, you don't miss me. You miss the version of me who stayed quiet, who showed up, who accepted crumbs. Her smile faltered. I stepped further into the doorway, still holding the frame, a soft but firm barrier between us. I'm not that version anymore, I continued. And I'm not interested in pretending nothing happened. You don't get to rewrite the story now that it's convenient. Beth's eyes widened. She blinked fast, like she hadn't expected me to speak with this much strength. She opened her mouth, maybe to argue, maybe to defend herself. But I held up a hand. No drama, I said quietly. I'm not angry. I'm just done. And that was the truth. There was no fire in my chest. No ache in my throat. Just peace. The kind that comes after you've grieved something fully. Not just the people you lost, but the illusions you clung to for too long. Beth hesitated. Her lips parted, then closed again. She looked down at her feet. Then she whispered, I thought you'd at least want to hear me out. I don't, I replied gently. Not because I hate you, but because I've learned that my time, my energy, my peace, they're sacred. And I won't keep giving them to people who only show up when the spotlight turns. She looked up, and for the first time in forever, I saw something raw flicker in her eyes. Not manipulation. Not control. Confusion. Like she was trying to understand a new version of me she never thought could exist. I didn't say anything more. I just stepped back and closed the door. Not slammed. Just closed. And on the other side, I heard her footsteps retreat slowly down the hallway. No yelling. No fight. No final word. Just a quiet no that echoed louder than any argument ever could. Later that evening, I got an email from my mother. Subject line: Olivia, please. The body of the email was short. I don't know what Beth said, but we're family. And family should stick together. I hate seeing us like this.
Can we talk?
Just once? I'm sorry if I made mistakes. I stared at the screen, and for a moment I thought about replying, typing out every hurt, every dinner she invited Beth to, and not me. Every time she praised my sister's ambition and told me art was a cute phase. Every time she brushed off my pain like it was petty or imagined. But I didn't. Because I finally understood something. I didn't need her to understand. I didn't need closure in the form of a perfectly worded apology. I already had closure. It came the day I realized that being family doesn't give someone permanent access to you. Love is not a hall pass to mistreat someone and still expect them to sit at your table. So, I replied with just one sentence. Thank you for reaching out. I wish you well. But I'm moving forward. No rage. No accusations.
Just a boundary.
And I meant it. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not yell, not cry, not plead. Sometimes the most powerful thing is to choose silence over chaos. Peace over patterns. Distance over duty. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail.
From my father.
We hadn't spoken in years. He was the quiet one in the family, always watching, never interfering. I used to think that made him harmless. Now I know silence can also be a form of complicity. His letter was handwritten, shaky, full of nostalgia and guilt. He said he regretted not speaking up more, not standing up for me, that he saw things he didn't want to admit, that he was proud of me. He just never knew how to say it. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my drawer. I didn't respond, not out of cruelty, but because not every apology requires a reunion. Some are meant to be kept like artifacts, proof that someone, somewhere, finally saw the truth. But truth alone doesn't undo time. That summer, I turned 32. I spent the evening on my apartment rooftop, watching the sun go down with Talia and Mara. We laughed, shared wine, talked about dreams and heartbreaks and healing. There was no drama, no expectations. Just women who had chosen each other not out of blood, but out of belief. I lit a single candle, made a wish I didn't speak out loud. And for the first time in my life, I didn't wish to be loved by those who had once left me out. I didn't wish to be seen by people who only looked when it served them. I just wished for more nights like this. More peace. People used to tell me I was too sensitive, too emotional, too intense, too much. And for a long time, I believed them. I believed that if I just dimmed my light, stayed quiet, helped more, gave more, that maybe they'd keep me. Maybe they'd love me the way I loved them. But love that demands you shrink yourself is not love. It's control dressed up in a smile. Looking back, I don't hate the version of me that stayed too long, that said yes too often, that mistook proximity for affection. She didn't know better. She just wanted to belong. And maybe you know her too. Maybe you are her. Maybe you're the one who never got invited. The one who they only called when something was needed. The one who stayed quiet so everyone else could stay comfortable. And maybe you've told yourself that being needed is close enough to being loved. But let me tell you something I wish someone had told me. You are allowed to outgrow the people who once raised you. You are allowed to stop answering calls that drain your spirit. You are allowed to be loyal to your peace over your past. You don't have to earn a seat at a table where you're only ever served scraps. I used to think strength looked like forgiveness, like keeping the peace, like never walking away. Now I know strength sometimes looks like silence, like saying no and meaning it, like starting over alone because you finally realized you deserve better. And yes, it will be lonely at first. When I stopped showing up, I had nights where I sat in the dark with my doubts. Did I do the right thing? Did I overreact? What if they do miss me and I'm just being stubborn? But those voices faded. Because for the first time, my life wasn't being written by other people's expectations. It was mine. All mine. To the person watching this right now, who feels invisible, I see you. To the one who gave and gave and gave and got blamed the moment they stopped giving, I see you. To the one who keeps checking their phone, hoping for a message that might never come. I see you. And you don't need their validation to confirm your worth. You were never the problem. You were never too much. You were just too real for people who preferred illusions. If I could go back and speak to the version of myself who cried quietly after Beth told me not to come home for Christmas, I wouldn't tell her to toughen up. I wouldn't tell her to fight harder. I would sit beside her. I'd hold her hand. And I'd whisper, "You don't need to break yourself to be accepted. The right people won't ask you to." Because that's what I know now. The right people, the ones who see you, who value your soul, and not just your usefulness, they won't make you beg for space in their lives. They'll make room.
Gladly.
Healing won't happen overnight. It'll come in strange moments. Like sitting at a coffee shop alone and realizing you're not lonely, you're free. Like laughing with new friends and realizing you don't have to walk on eggshells anymore. Like getting invited somewhere not because you're expected to be there, but because they genuinely want you there. And one day, you'll stop replaying the pain in your head. Not because it stopped mattering, but because it finally stopped defining you. So, if you're waiting for a sign to walk away from the people who've only loved you on their terms, let this be it. Let this be your permission slip. You don't owe anyone an explanation for prioritizing your peace. You don't have to play small to be safe. You are not too sensitive. You are not too dramatic. You are not too emotional. You are just too honest for a world that prefers polite pretending. And to the ones who left you out, who only loved the version of you that served them, let them go. Let them wonder what happened to the girl who always said yes. Let them miss you in silence. Let them realize they underestimated someone they thought would never walk away.
Because now you have.
And now you are free. So, here's my final word to you. Your worth is not measured by who stays. It's revealed by who tries to return once you've found your voice. And if nobody tells you this today, let me be the first. I'm proud of you. You didn't just survive. You grew. You healed. You walked away, even when it hurt. You proved them wrong, not by shouting it, but by living a life so full of peace, they can't ignore your absence.